And then, and the ones that I think are most successful, they have a sort of three-dimensional character to them. There's a little in and out going on. They are elevated so that they're prominent in the landscape, and they're in scale with the space of the entire roadway. So that's important. They shouldn't be just a tiny little thing off to the side, which is kind of what you have right now.
It is.
So, but even in Evans, you can see I've got 5 different signs that I found that are gateway signs, and there's a mishmash going on right now.
Technical term?
Yeah, or hodgepodge.
Right, or hodgepodge.
Either one. And
Variety.
I'll remember that. And so, to add to the mishmash, I guess, the thing is, let me go back to that it needs to be in scale with the space of the roadway. So that means all those that I just looked at, they don't do that. Okay, that's the problem. This thing needs to be pretty big, frankly, and it needs to top out at maybe 12 feet above the existing grade, and it needs to be on a mound. Part of the problem is on the southern approach, that land where you would want to put it, where those 2 older signs are now, they're sort of down it's lower than the roadway, and so they don't stand out. They don't greet you as you come into town. And I think what needs to happen is they need to be, whatever you do here needs to be raised up. And what I'm suggesting here would be something that's concrete block, maybe it's stuccoed over, it could be a stone veneer, and use that circular sort of river R, that logo, which is really nice, and I hope you find ways to use that over and over again in the future, because I think it's really strong as a logo. And so what I'm showing here would be the logo, the name Evans, and behind it, a taller wall that says "Welcome to" on it. So it's a little bit of adjunct to the bigger sign. And then you landscape this thing like crazy, so that there's a backdrop to it of evergreens and deciduous both, so that it blocks the view of what's beyond it, and it frames the Gateway Monument itself. So the next slide, well, I was asked to put this in here, but this was really Paula's idea to put this in here, but it shows what happens if you don't landscape it and you don't build it up and elevate it.
So I just want to say that in that area we have, this is a great idea. I just want to make 2 comments on this. We have to deal with railroad right away. Right. And I think that's what the problem was in the past. And then the other thing is that I do know that Greeley sign cost $500,000. And the citizens that have been here for some time in Greeley, at least, are still a little upset over the cost of that. So. Yeah.
Well, I'm not proposing anything of that size and scale here, so it's like a third of that.
Yeah.
Here's a little 3D view of it. That hey, Stephen, Jason, come on up. Everybody, this is Mueller Engineering. Stephen and Jason Campbell. So, lost my train of thought. Oh. Anyway, so Jason and his guys put together these images so we could see what it looks like in 3D. And if hopefully, yeah.
One question, I think to Councilmember Spears' point, you had talked to me about a couple locations, or at least one that would be on city-owned property, right, that could mitigate the CDOT right-of-way concern.
And not in the PowerPoint that we're looking at right now. So let me show you guys this little thing. I had put it in the PowerPoint, but it's not in the one that we're looking at. There is a triangle of land that's right behind where those 2 signs are now. That is city-owned property. It's this triangle here, and it's sort of landlocked. You can't get to it from anywhere, but it's not railroad right-of-way, and it's not CDOT right-of-way. So that's a perfect spot to put this thing on the south, at the south approach. So one on the north end is gonna be a little bit different because it's in right of way. But it may be something that CDOT would allow us to do. We've talked to them about it. We've had preliminary discussions, so we're gonna follow that up.
I like that concept of that sign, actually. That looks very, I mean, even on paper here, it looks very pleasing. It looks very attractive. I like that design. One thing I would say, and of course, I'm sure, I'd like to see it lit pretty well. Because I know the Evans sign, when I come in, you know, from like LaSalle, or if I'm, you know, traveling from Denver back in through LaSalle, the sign there, it's lit, but it's not bright.
Yeah.
I want to see when I come into Evans, I see the sign, it's lit, you know, attractively, and it says Evans. It's something just like that.
Well, I really like this idea. I just, I'm sorry, my concern with the trees is we haven't really been historically great with growing trees. So I would hope that we could figure out some better irrigation methods for the trees. The trees are great. They look beautiful. That's a beautiful looking sign. That'd be fabulous. And I agree with Council Member Clark here that I would love to have it lit up really nicely. But I do have concern about trees.
Okay. Good.
Less expensive.
Okay.
I like the design. It's just, again, when we're talking about scale,
Mm-hmm.
like if you look at it there, it's so small.
Yeah.
It still looks tiny, but if we move it to this vicinity, I think it may, just, again, that area, there's just so much space.
Yep.
And again, trying to keep the cost down, you want it too big, otherwise, you know, increases the amount, but.
Right, I mean, that's what I was saying. I think you can not have it huge and have it something like that and make it stand out, especially at night and lit. Really stand out, especially if you did white like that. I'm just envisioning it as of now. You're going to notice that from a pretty good can be elevated.
Yeah, good.
How high can you go? Just as like city limits?
I'm not aware of any. There is something. There's like a 15-foot limit. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, great. Thank you for that input. Now, I want to talk about wayfinding signage. And this one's a little difficult for me. Because you've recently invested in a system, and I think I could go either way. I mean, I have some views on it, and but I understand that you're already vested in a particular type of sign and everything, and if you want to just keep that going, could be the right thing to do. So we're Jim and I sort of arrived at option A and option B. Option A being extend the existing sign program that you have, and keep going with that. And option B would be to go with a little bit different thing that's not lighted, that just uses reflective sign material. I think it would be expensive dollars to go farther.
More than design is to draw. We need, as you told me, more.
Yeah.
To draw people to what's in that to look at.
Yeah.
So that
I want to be able to. I'd like to be able to list, you know, that on the sign. I'd like to be able to say Riverside Ballpark, except I'd like to spell it correctly. Yeah. Yeah.
Riverside Library.
engineers.
Yeah. Spelling was never.
You know, one thing I had a question, I believe, from the mayor about the potential for a large traditional CDOT sign that could point people toward Riverside Park, and that was not something CDOT says they don't have, and I guess it's a statewide policy. Therefore, park attractions are not
Right.
They don't meet the level for that kind of sign.
Yeah, their criteria is what generates traffic.
Right.
That's when you get a sign.
Right. So I guess if it's, you know,
It's something along that line, but to really make Evans stand out as when you're driving down 34, driving down 85, you always find, you know, Sydney, you know, Fort Collins,